His Excellency Sandiaga Uno, Minister for Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia, and Madam Nur Asia Uno, Chair of Asosiasi Fashion Indonesia, AFI, Honorable Winanto Adi, Consul General of the Republic of Indonesia in New York, and Madam Harini Septiana, Andrew Serrano, Acting Head of Designer Relations for New York Fashion Week, IMG Fashion Events, knowing New York Fashion Week and US Fashion Industry, Edwina Kulego, Vice President, International Business Development and Men's Informa Fashion Markets. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Fashion Workshop and Networking. This event is a teaser or a lead-up event towards Made in Indonesia project, which is an initiative to introduce Indonesian fashion designers and their products in a consistent and sustainable manner. And to kick off today's event, please welcome Honorable Winanto Adi, Consul General of the Republic of Indonesia in New York, to deliver his remarks.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. His Excellency Minister Sandiaga Uno, Minister for Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia, Mrs. Nur Asia Uno, Chair of the Association Fashion Indonesia and spouse of the Minister for Tourism and Creative Economy, Ms. Edwina Kulego, Vice President of International Business Development and Men's of Informa Fashion Market, Mr. Andrew Serrano, Acting Head of Designer Relations of IMG Fashion and Models, participant from Fashion Institute of Technology, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, selamat siang, very good afternoon. First of all, I would like to convey my greatest appreciation to the co-host of this event, the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia, and also Indonesia Fashion Association. I would also like to thank Ibu Maya Naratama, from Acha Production for their support in organizing this event. Allow me to also thank the speakers once again, Ms. Edwina and Mr. Andrew, as well as all the guests who has made time to fulfill our invitation. It is very nice to welcome everyone at the Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia in New York. Welcome to our old buildings. Maybe next year we will celebrate 130 years of the establishment of this building. And ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the Fashion Workshop and Networking event has been a long time vision of me. As you may know, this is not my first assignment in New York. Back in 2015 to 2019, I was assigned as the Consul for Economic Affairs in this very office. During that time, I have witnessed so many Indonesian designers trying to establish their presence here in the United States, yet very little managed to maintain their presence here in the US market. Based on my observation, there are three main challenges that made it difficult for designers to penetrate and maintain their presence here. First is the lack of curation and knowledge regarding the US market. I often found that designers who come here did not have prior information regarding the color trends, sizing, design preferences in the US, which makes it harder for them to attract buyers. Second is the lack of vision to enter the US market. Indonesia is a big market. A lot of times designers go to the US only to brand themselves for Indonesian audience. This is a valid promotion strategy, of course. However, my vision is to encourage designers to have a mindset to go beyond branding. So, and the third, the lack of consistency by designers in introducing their product to the market and making innovation. Those three challenges are the background of the consulate's new project, named Project Fashion Made in Indonesia. This project aims to bring Indonesian fashion to New York in a more sustainable and consistent manner. This project will have a comprehensive branding, educating, marketing, and selling aspects to it. Project Made in Indonesia will consist of 3 phases. First is pre-event, which will consist of curation in Indonesia and training regarding US markets by curators. So hopefully by IMG and also Informa. And then second is event itself, which will consist of participation of curated Indonesian designers in New York Fashion Week, as well as the trade show Magic or Cutlery. The third phase is the post-event, where we will do evaluation and help designers to follow up with potential buyers or partners. I do hope our event today could mark the first step towards implementing Project Fashion Made in Indonesia. Today, everyone will hear from IMG and also Informa regarding the New York Fashion Week, Magic Cutlery, and US fashion markets. After the discussion session, there will be a see and touch sessions where the speakers and audiences can look at the products from 14 Indonesian designers or brands and provide their inputs. It is in my hope that the designers from Indonesia could go home with new knowledge and inputs from US fashion actors, and the US fashion actors could go home with more familiarity towards Indonesian fashion brands. Going forward, I hope that the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy will continue to support the implementation of the Project Fashion Made in Indonesia so that Indonesian fashion industry can thrive in the US and bring back real economic benefits to Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, before I end my remark, fashion is very closely related to other creative economic sectors, such as dance, music, performing arts, movie, news, and etc. So allow me to mention that today we are joined by a representative from several prime mover of Indonesian creative economy. I would like to introduce Mr. Bubah Alfian, the prime mover of Jember Fashion Carnival. Please stand up so everybody can see you. Thank you. And also Mr. Adit Marciano from Camp Broadway, Indonesia. And one of our top influencer in Indonesia, Mr. Torik Halilintar. They are a group of Indonesian young creatives who upcycles unusable dresses into performance carnival clothing. Now, for your information, Jember Fashion Carnival is the 3rd biggest fashion carnival in the world. So I think it is also the right time. Mohon support Pak Menteri, maybe next year the Jember Fashion Carnival can perform in New York City. So I also believe that it is worth mentioning today you will not only able to do a see and touch of Indonesian clothing, but also to smell and taste Indonesian food. Particularly, we also serve here Indonesian jamu, so herbal drinks from Indonesia. Terima kasih Pak Menteri. So before you are Indonesian delicacies as well, Jajan Pasar along with Indonesian herbal tonic drinks, jamu. It is made from turmeric, ginger and other spices, and hopefully in not so long, then we can find it in some shops in New York City. So jamu, herbal drinks from Indonesia. Finally, I wish you a great discussion and enjoyable event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bapak. Now please allow me to invite His Excellency Sandiaga Uno, Minister for Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia, to deliver his opening remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and warmest greeting to you all. Honorable Pak Win and Ibu, Consul General of Indonesia in New York, Edgar, Irizari, and also Edwina from Informa, Andrew Serrano from IMG, and also many distinguished guests, including Indonesian influencer, other than Jember Fashion Carnival that we support, and it's one of the top 10 events in Indonesia and hopefully make it globally as well. We have Torik Halilintar. He's Consul General, very modest, but he's the biggest Asian YouTuber with more than 100 million followers with 1 billion plus viewers. So thank you, Pak Torik, to be here. And also my very best friend, Adit Marciano, who initiate Camp Broadway Indonesia. So we have the best of Indonesian talents. We'll be performing also in Broadway. We already opened this year and many more to come. And also professor from FIT, my friends from the industry, and also from the communities, Ibu Dewi. I would like to introduce my director in charge of fashion, culinary, crafts, and design, Ibu Yuke, Sri Rahayu. And from the back, Mbak Tika, the coordinator for fashion. We have a small team. My wife's team is even bigger than my team. We're trying to be efficient. My wife's chair the Indonesia Fashion Associations, and this is a collaboration among all parties. I have about 18 pages of speech. No, just kidding. But I'll keep it very short. I'm very delightful to be here in New York. And this is actually a very, for me and my wife, very memorable weekend because our daughter's getting married or got married in New York on Saturday. And she just walked into the room. So we're here, and today's event will mark another added joy and happiness that we bring Indonesian fashion to New York, I would say the capital of fashion of the world. So it is a sector that resonates deeply with our culture, our heritage, and aspirations. In terms of jobs within the creative economy, and we have about 45 million together with tourism jobs that are created in the sectors. Culinary is number one, so you have culinary samples in front of you with around 45% contributions to the GDP. But fashion have 2/3 contributions to the exports. That means the value of the fashion industries contributed to Indonesia's foreign exchange. And it has seen a remarkable growth over the years, contributing substantially to not only the welfare of the people, but also, I would say, many of the job creations that is happening in Bandung in particular, and some other areas, not only in Java, but also outside Java. More than just batiks that we are wearing, there's also new fashions, from the high-end fashions that we have to the everyday's casual wear. Indonesia's fashion industry is now thriving. Post-COVID, it is the government's focus on how we could move up the industry to a higher level with more knowledge and expertise. So it is with great joy that I'm here in New York to anticipate an influx of good discussions, because both of you will share great stories, and soon Indonesia fashion will enter more into the global stage. And to all participants who are here, standing room only, sorry, I extend my heartfelt gratitude for you to join this remarkable venture and beginning of a new era of Made in Indonesia. Please be actively engaged, ask a lot of questions to these experts, because yes, some Indonesian brands come here just to check the box. Yes, I've been to New York, and they could promote more in Indonesia, because it's a huge market. It's the largest economy in Southeast Asia. But it is also for us to embrace the spirit of collaborations with New York fashion industry. So to conclude, they don't prepare me with a poem, with a pantun, so I'll just create it on my own. Last year, we hosted the G20. Too late. Are you ready? Last year, we hosted the G20. This year, we just finished the Asian Summit. Let's go, New York Fashion Week. Keep smiling and stay healthy. Everybody, together, we can do it. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, amongst us today, we have Asosiasi Fashion Indonesia, Indonesia Fashion Association, an association that has contributed to introducing Indonesian brands to regional and international stage. To explain more on this, please welcome the chair of AFI, Madam Nur Asia Uno.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Minister for Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic Indonesia, our mentor, my husband, Mr. Sandiaga Uno, Excellency Consul General of Indonesia in New York, Mr. Winanto Adi, Acting Head of Designer Relations for New York Fashion Week, Mr. Andrew Serrano, VP for International Business Development and Men's Informa Fashion Market, Ms. Edwina Kulego, Director of Ministry for Culinary, Craft Design and Fashion of Republic of Indonesia, Mrs. Yuker Sri Rahayu. Ladies and gentlemen, our honorable guests, Thank you very much for a wonderful time in this September. Finally, we can meet today, supported by Indonesian Consulate General of New York with a wonderful collaboration among Magic Coterie, IMG Fashion, Parsons School of Design, Informa Market Fashion, Fashion Institute of Technology, Pratt Institute, and all team from Ministry for Tourism and Creative Economy of Republic of Indonesia and Indonesian Fashion Association Road to Made in Indonesia project. His Excellency Minister, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is blessed with heritage such as huge variety of local textiles, fashion, culinary, as well as creative economy products of local brands which potential to be known worldwide. Some Indonesian local brands have indeed go through international market. As chairwoman of Indonesian Fashion Association, our main goal is to bring talented Indonesian brands and designer in a space that introduces literature diversity and cultural wisdom, as well as environmental sustainability and creativity. We believe in showing everyone the beauty of Indonesia culture through its culture, fashion, culinary, and craftsmanship. Our mission it's not only to live Indonesia creative economy, but show an example of hardworking group of incredible and talented brands. Today, there are 14 participants, SMEs, local brand from Indonesia, such as Archive, Handip, MA Namu, Mose, Na Wonderland, Nusantara Kala, Purana X Fuguku, Shiroshima, Tiasa X Zia Indonesia, Tujuh Saudara, Cap Bali, Haluan Bali, Hosi Goru, and Forduren. Please share your thoughts and comments when you view those products. We value your input and as we introduce this brand to the international market. Thank you again. Let's see our wonderful local brands of Indonesia. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right, to get yourself familiar with the brands, the 14 brands that were just mentioned by Madam Uno, we're gonna watch the video profile of each brand. Here they are.
Hi, I'm Yuni from Muzi Bag. Our bags are all inspired by the love for bags. Founded in 2008 by my partner Adin Bajumi in Bandung. Muzi is an Indonesian bag line designed by Indonesian designer, targeting women in the age of 25 or 50 who's always been their own inspiration. Made from almost 100% local materials, handcraft by Indonesian craftsmen, Muzi is also being sold in most Jakarta big department stores such as Metro Department Store, Goods Dep, Debenhams, and Ion. They're also going out for the global market, such as one of the biggest department store in Singapore, Korea, and Australia. And now Muzi can found in many online stores in Indonesia. And now we are ready to enter the United States of America fashion market, especially in one of the biggest fashion industry city in the world like New York. Thank you so much.
N.A. Wonderful Land was born out inspiration from the extraordinary natural beauties of Indonesia in the form of creative economy, one of which is shoes. With actions to promote the natural beauties of Indonesia, we also develop human resources through the creativity of the nation's people and improve the creative economy.
NA Wonderful Land terinspirasi untuk menghadirkan keindahan yang ada di Indonesia dalam wujud ekonomi kreatif. Salah satu di antaranya sepatu. Sukses untuk NA Wonderful Land.
Terima kasih Bapak.
Terima kasih. Wah, keren banget nih.
Growing up in a traditional Javanese family and exposed to handmade fabrics, Nonita was inspired to pursue Indonesian heritage as her main design focus. Kirana was later established and committed to adopt local wisdom by utilizing artwork made by local artisans and artists and combining them with fashionable cuts, patterns, and color mix. Pirana is contemporary fashion infused with Indonesian local wisdom.
Menurut aku tanggung jawab terbesar desainer itu adalah menghadirkan sesuatu yang fresh dan baru dan tidak mengcopy dari apa yang pernah dia lihat atau pernah dia experience atau pernah dia sentuh sebelumnya. That is a big responsibility. Aku memang dibesarkan di keluarga yang Jawa ya di Solo dan kita sempat punya pabrik batik, udah nggak beroperasi, jadi aku cukup dekat juga dengan kain Indonesia, terutama batik. Ketika kerja di majalah sebagai fashion jurnalis, kok panggilannya makin kuat gitu loh untuk membuat suatu produk yang memang ada gaung Indonesianya.
Very interesting. Can we please have a big round of applause for Indonesian products? Yes. Continuing the program, I would like to invite Andrew Serrano for IMG Fashion. Andrew will talk a bit about New York Fashion Week. Andrew, take it away.
Work very closely with our colleagues in London, Milan, Paris, Tokyo, Sydney, Berlin, Istanbul, many other cities that run Fashion Week around the world. The biggest and most impactful being New York Fashion Week, of course. To me, New York Fashion Week is a representation of the city of New York Fashion Week, of New York. When you come to New York, you'll see somebody walking down the street in a hijab, you'll see somebody walking down the street wearing nothing. And that's just New York, you know. And so when we look at New York Fashion Week, we really look to welcome designers and brands from around the world that are representative of just that are welcoming of everyone and understand that people dress differently in every part of the world and people have a different tastes, they have different values, they have different types of craftsmanship, different types of artwork, different types of traditions that they look to put on their bodies every day. Every day we all make a choice in what we want to wear, right? And whether it's a suit or whether it's something that makes us feel comfortable or just makes us feel like, you know, special for that day. Fashion is such a unique tool in that it gives us the ability to express ourselves every single day with one small decision of what are we going to wear. New York Fashion Week has been around since the late 80s, early 90s, it's debatable. We are the preeminent fashion week around the world. We make the most media value and the most impressions of any fashion week. You look at cities like London, Milan, Paris, and you know, while those fashion weeks, of course, are very important to the overall fashion industry, those fashion weeks tends to focus on Italian designers, on French designers, or designers that are more established and already have created a name for themselves internationally. New York Fashion Week, we look for brands that need the support of the industry, of organizing bodies. They need the support of the general counsels back home, of the ministers of tourism back home, and designers who have already created a name for themselves in their home country. So in Indonesia, they're an established brand. They've created an audience for themselves. People know them, they respect them. And now they want to break into the larger American market or the international market as a whole. New York Fashion Week offers a platform to do that. To your point, General Counsel, New York Fashion Week is just one part of the equation, right? You have to have wholesale, you have to have a marketing platform or marketing plan that is 365 days a year, not just the one day of your fashion show. However, that one day of your fashion show, if you do it right, that content can last for months and months, if not years at a time. Understanding your audience in New York Fashion Week is really important. Understanding that you're going to have the international world there and you're going to have eyes on you and your collection. One of the things that we do is we partner with the General Council of Indonesia to put together an edited group show of designers that is representative of what's happening in Indonesia and what is to come from Indonesia. Most importantly, it's what's to come. I think for us as the organizers of New York Fashion Week, we are always looking for people that are designers that are gonna bring us an idea of what's to come next season, what are the trends that are ahead of time. One of the things that I respect the most about Indonesian designers is your respect for your culture and your respect for your craftsmanship and artisans that are continuously making items of clothing that pay homage to the craftsmanship and the colors and the textiles and the beading and the intricacies of the work that is already happening there and has been happening for generations. I think the thing that we will work on together is working on what is next. So when you bring your collection to New York Fashion Week, and hopefully some of you will bring your collection to New York Fashion Week, understanding that there has to be a respect for your heritage and your design, but also what are you now doing to make that design marketable to the international market, right? Are your cuts different? Are your colorways going to be a little bit different for America than they are for Indonesia? Are they going to be a little bit different for the European market? Understanding that, women and men, have different tastes, different shapes, different sizing, different markets. So working closely together to really use New York Fashion Week as a platform to show this is what we've done back home, here's what we want our brand to go. So using the runway to tell a story is really important. Telling the story of, how far can your creativity go is, first and foremost what people look at the runway, right? We want to see the creativity, but also we want to know how is the everyday woman going to be able to wear this, right? So seeing your creations come to life and seeing the storyline come to life is very important. But you want the audience member, which is, hopefully a buyer or an editor or a journalist, to sit there and understand, okay, how is my customer, how is my reader going to translate what's coming down the runway to their own body, or to how they can look on the rack in my store, how they're going to look in my magazine. So for us as the organizers of Fashion Week, it's important to look to these designers that are able to tell the story from creation to end concept, right? So again, from inception all the way to the end customer. New York Fashion Week, we're the preeminent fashion destination. We generate over $900 million in sales just during the week of Fashion Week. We generate over 165 billion media impressions, again, just during the week of New York Fashion Week, which is over $4.5 billion in potential ad revenue, again, just during New York Fashion Week. To some of the points that the Minister of Culture was making, New York Fashion Week is beyond just fashion now. We touch art, we touch culinary, we touch so many different areas of the city that makes up New York Fashion Week. So whether we activate different restaurants, whether we activate different art galleries, whether we activate different parts of the city, to us, fashion is just a catalyst to tell these stories for all areas of the design community. So we have a lot of exciting plans to announce soon, which you'll hear about hopefully in the next couple of months. But as we expand New York Fashion Week into the general community, we're doing a lot of similar things that you mentioned in your own speech about bringing in different artisans and bringing in different storytellers, again, whether it's art or design, architecture, culinary, to tell their stories using fashion as a catalyst. For us, it's a cultural connector. It's a cultural moment. So yes, it's about the fashion, but it's more about the culture around the fashion, the culture around the design. What we look for when it comes to designers and for shows is, of course, these design, creativity. Are you designers making something that is new, that's interesting, something that we haven't seen before? We want to see that your mind can do something that we haven't seen. And again, new innovation, what are you doing that we haven't already seen? Another big pillar for us is diversity and inclusion. Again, working with these international markets to understand, what's important to them back home, look at different types of craftsmanship and artwork that is happening outside of just the United States of America. And sustainability. That's, a tough word, tough for us to say in the fashion industry, because we all know the fashion industry has a reputation for not being the most sustainable. But the reality is that if we're not all making small changes towards some area of sustainability, then what are we doing here, right? So I think that when we look to new brands and look at the innovations that are being made in the fashion industry, thinking forward to the sustainability portion of it and how our brands making, even if it's a small change or a small effort towards sustainability, those small efforts really add up in the long run. New York Fashion Week, we had 21 countries participating this season. We had 129 plus designers. And it's a really big moment for us to really get to know who you are and hopefully, expand you into the world. With that being said, I will leave it to my next colleague to, give her part on the most important part, sales.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me and my colleague Edgar Irizarry to come and speak today. I'm truly honored to be here. It was a last-minute change for me. I was on my way to the Bahamas, and then the weather said, no, you can't go. And then I emailed Amanda. Thank you, Amanda, and she was able to accommodate me, so I am really, really excited to be here. Everything happens for a reason. And I believe that I'm meant to be in the room today with all of you. I am thankful to the Consul General, Mr. Adi, for inviting me. Also, Mr. and Mrs. Uno, thank you so much for your contribution to Indonesian fashion and for all the efforts that you're making. To me, fashion is all about making connections. I moved to New York 15 years ago. To study fashion. It was a passion of mine. I grew up in a small town in Sweden called Malmo by parents from Ghana, and I was always interested in creativity and color and expression, and I knew that New York would be the city to move to. So I moved to New York, and I studied at Berkeley. I studied fashion, and one of the things that I really think are important in our industry is connections, networking, making sure that you are showing up, that you're telling your brand story, which many of you are here to do today. And I think it's so important that these workshops are happening, that we're able to connect industries, that Andrew's here to speak on his experience, that I'm here to share some of my experience in growing international designers in New York, that we have leaders from FIT in the room. This is what fashion is all about. It really is about connecting. We're getting to touch and feel product, which many of us have missed during the pandemic. And so again, I'd like to thank all of you for your efforts in bringing the designers here today and giving us all an opportunity to connect with them and to get to know their passion and why they're here. We have prepared a presentation for you all today. I hope that we're able to bring that up on the screen so that I can share more about Informa Markets Fashion, about trade shows like Magic and Coterie, and how we support international designers in scaling their businesses. So we touched a lot about marketing, about image, about coming to New York and getting the opportunity to have your products on the runways. But then you think about the business side. So now that I've gotten all of this content, great marketing, visibility, how do I make sure that I can see my product in stores, that I can be selling product in the US market? And that's where we come in. So Informa Markets Fashion, I'm gonna see if I can take this way. So we are responsible for connecting and inspiring the global fashion industry. Many of you know us for our various events, Magic, Project, Coterie, and Sourcing at Magic. These events are all created to help brands, whether they're domestic from the US or international, connect with international and US buyers. So in a nutshell, we create a beautiful platform for brands to connect with stores. Next slide, please. So again, we are the largest fashion trade show producer in the US. We also provide manufacturing and supply chain opportunities through our show Sourcing at Magic. So we have a lot of factories, manufacturers that come to our events to also give designers, whether they're international or US-based, opportunities to find new solutions to strengthen their ecosystem and to help them create their fashion. Next slide. So a few stats around our events. We have almost 250,000 active industry contacts, including buyers, brands, manufacturers, and suppliers at our various events. We are represented by over 180 countries, so we're truly a global marketplace across our brands and buyers. The top priority of the majority of the attending buyers at our events is to make connections and meeting new partners. So they all come to these events to find out what's new from Indonesia, what's trending, what are the new trends, colors, designs, what are some new designers that we should be connecting with to purchase and make decisions for what's going to be in our stores. Over 80% buying power. So on our show floors, you're meeting with top decision makers such as CEOs, presidents, and VPs. We are very keen on making sure that decision makers are in the building. It's not an event for anyone who's walking down the streets of New York. It's truly a B2B event, and so we're very strict on who's registering for the event and making sure that there are truly decision makers in fashion that are attending the shows. Next slide, please. So we created this slide which covers some of the more structural changes that have happened in fashion, specifically post-pandemic. So I won't go through all of them. We're happy to share this presentation with anyone here, any of the designers that will need it. But in general, and I don't have my glasses, so I'm trying to see. So the retail landscape. Some of the things that we're realizing and noticing in retail is that the experiential component of things is becoming more and more important. So retailers are looking for innovative ways to continue to bring consumers into their stores. So a great example of this is the store Merci in Paris. They are now having a cafe in their store, there's a library there, there's usually a performance happening. We're also seeing these trends in department stores in the US. And so gone are the days of just having clothing in a store and hoping that consumers walk in. Stores, especially in the US market, are really trying to find ways to captivate their customers, to allow for them to have more than just an experience in the store. And so those are some of the leading trends that we're seeing in retail. Do you have it open, Edgar, so I can see it on the screen? I'm having a hard time reading this. Okay, so the next point is the importance of specialty stores. 80% of the stores that shop our events are boutique and specialty stores. As we all know, there's been a lot of shifts within department stores, and even though we have Bergdorf Goodman, Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, Macy's, many of the notable department stores that come and shop our events, the majority of the stores that come are boutique stores. They're your mom and pop stores all over the US that are looking for new product to fill their stores. And so we're realizing that even though department stores are the key stores that many international brands want to target and enter, it can be quite challenging to start off a new relationship with a department store. They have large requirements. The orders may be bigger than your capacity. There's marketing requirements. Your social media has to be tip-top. In terms of logistics, You definitely have to make sure that you can ship. Sometimes you may have to ship directly to their customers. So there are a lot of things and boxes that you need to check off when it comes to dealing with department stores. That is why specialty and boutique stores are so important. They're a little bit easier to work with. It's a little bit more manageable. You can ask them direct questions and get feedback quickly. They're also able to come back to you and say, oh, I love the items that you ship to our store, but we're realizing that the women that shop in our boutique like darker colors versus the bright ones, or some of the sizing may be off. So the tangible, hands-on feedback that you're getting from a department store versus a larger, or a boutique store versus a larger department store can be very helpful in helping you scale your business more effectively. Thank you, Edgar. I can see it much clearly here. Okay, another part that is really important is brand partnerships. So we're finding that a lot of department stores are wanting to build long-term partnerships with brands. You may see a brand do an exclusive drop with Neiman Marcus or with Nordstrom, for example. This is becoming more and more popular. Department stores are looking for ways to build more partnerships with brands, and so if they're walking the show floor and they see a very specific, cool, hip item that you may have in your booth, they may ask for exclusivity to have a specific product made especially for them. The importance of e-commerce. This is the sales channel that is the most significant growth opportunity. As we all know, the Gen Zers, the millennials, we're spending a lot of time on our phones. A lot of consumers, like myself, shop on Instagram now, which I never thought I would. But we're definitely having generations that are becoming very used to e-commerce, shopping on their phones, purchasing on social media, and so we are also seeing a growth in online stores coming to our events. Stores like Net-a-Porter, like Matches.com, like ASOS.com. Those are stores that are coming with larger buying groups to our events because they are getting more sales through their platforms. So as a brand launching in the US market, we definitely stress the importance of having a website, having a strong e-commerce site. You may not have an opportunity to sell on social media or on Instagram, but definitely having a presence online is key, and that is something that is going to continue. And finally, the fashion evolution. I know Andrew spoke a lot about sustainability and social impact. Again, this is something that we have to do together. We as a trade show are also trying to figure out how we can make our events more sustainable. We used to, I don't know, back in the day, if anyone remembers, we used to have like a big show guide. It kind of looked like a Bible of all of the exhibitors at the show. And eventually, we're starting to launch more apps and making things more digital. We're also cutting things like carpet. And so we as a trade show are trying to figure out, well, what can we do to cut back on waste? And I know that the brands on the show floor are doing the same thing, whether it's through their packaging or whether it's through their actual product. It is a conversation that will continue to be top of mind for fashion. And I think consumers are also looking for sustainable brands. So on a website or on your social media platform, it could be great for you to show your sustainable efforts, whether it's social sustainability, which we saw in the video of artisans creating products. These are things that matter to consumers, especially American consumers today. They want to know that the purchase that they're making feels good and that they could be or may be helping someone. So keeping that in mind as a brand entering this market is very important. And finally, customers buy what delights them and makes them feel more human. I think brands, especially international brands looking to launch in the US market, having a strong brand DNA is key. Sharing your story, maybe if it's a family business, if it's a woman-owned business, whatever it is that you are trying to bring forward to this market, the more in tune you are with your story and the more you share, I think that will be received warmly. Next slide, please. Okay, so keys to success in entering the US market. This is my favorite slide because it really gets into how to prepare for this very competitive and large fashion market. So the keys to success. Finding your voice as a brand, we talked about that. Knowing what your unique DNA is. At the trade shows, we have about 800 brands at our last event last week in New York. And so you are one of 799 in New York trying to convince retailers to take a chance on your product. So when you do show up, you want to be able to specify why you should be there, why you're competitive, why your products are different, why a retailer should take a chance on you. So really knowing who you are and why you stand out is key. Clearly communicating your story, focusing on sell out more than sell in. This is a term that we use a lot in wholesale, but it is important to have a conversation with the retailers if you're already doing business with them and figuring out how your product is really doing. Is it a high return rate? Is it a specific product that is constantly getting returned? How the financials are looking. Communicating product knowledge and your brand story with retail partners is key. Some of the brands on the floor have about a 5-minute chance to give their elevator pitch and to explain who they are. And so being really concise and clear about who you are as a brand is key. Delivery cadence. I get this question a lot. Well, Edwina, if I'm coming to your event in September, what type of product should I have? What we have on the board is approximate. I will say that the fashion calendar has shifted substantially. Immediates are now becoming a word that retailers are using a lot, meaning that they'd like for you to ship product to them as soon as possible. So the level of patience from consumers have led to retailers wanting product faster. It's also about making sure that they're being responsible with the finances that they have and the amount of budget that they've allocated. So you may see retailers shopping in smaller quantities but more frequently in order to make sure that they're managing their risk in purchasing. So if you are showing in September, which our show was last week, you would typically have spring product delivery, which would be in stores by January and March. For our February event, it would be fall product delivery in stores by August to September. And again, immediates could be anything from a week. If you can do a week, I'm sure a lot of buyers would be super happy about that, but anything from 4 to 6 weeks is the industry standard. Pricing. This, we'll definitely spend a lot of time in the workshop talking about pricing, but having your pricing in landed US dollars is so important. And this is a mistake that a lot of international brands make when they come to our events. You want to make it as easy for the retailers as possible. And so if you have pricing in a different currency, if they don't know what customs will look like, if logistics and shipping seems to be cumbersome, a buyer may say, you know what, I'm gonna pass and just continue working with the accounts that I have. Make the process as easy for the buyers as possible if you want to scale your business. Cut out any kind of custom pricing, additional fees. Have your pricing in landed US dollars in order to see more success. And also conduct a competitive pricing analysis every season. This is something you could do beforehand. Look at some of your competitors that you think may be competitive to you in the US market. Look at their pricing, their positioning. Look at the models that they're using on social media. Some of their verbiage, their captions on social media. You really want to be able to get an overview of the US market and figure out where you fit in. And there's nothing wrong with looking at some competitors and figuring out how you can stand out in comparison to them. Agents and showrooms. I won't go into this too much, but this is a question that comes up a lot. So I came to your show, Edwina. I had great success at Coterie. Now I need an agent or a sales representative to continue my business in the US because I'm based in Indonesia. I do recommend that brands come to the US, have a show experience, get the feedback before finding an agent or a salesperson to take on your business. Your business is very valuable, and finding an agent or a rep is kind of like dating. You have to make sure that they know you, you know them, that they have your best interest at heart, that they have as many buyers in their network as possible that are a good match for your brand. And so it's important to take your time and kind of ease into finding the right partner to further your business in the US. And again, we can cover this more one-on-one, because I know I only have 10 minutes, and I like to talk. Event preparation. Your booth is your billboard. So when you do come to the events, what the buyers see is an image of what they could potentially see in their stores. So you want to stand out. You want to make sure that the product is clean. Sometimes we have brands that put way too much product in their booth, and we can't really see what they're about. And so making sure that it's merchandised like a store is very important. Some of our brands bring in plants, rugs, or even some beautiful things that remind them of their home country. Anything that represents Indonesia can be really important for the buyers to really get an idea of who you are as a brand. Which retailers do you want to target and why? Usually when I meet with brands that are doing their first show, they're like, I want Bergdorf Goodman, I want to be in Nordstrom, I need to see the buyer from Neiman Marcus. But most of them don't know what those buyers look like, or they've never been in touch with them. Amanda's like, yes, yes, yes. So yes, the research is really important, and I get this question a lot. Well, how do I get in touch with buyers? They don't know me, I don't know them. Google, Instagram, go on LinkedIn, call the buying office from Macy's. Hi, I have an amazing jewelry brand out of Indonesia. Can I get the contact to your jewelry buyer? You'll be surprised. You will get that information. You may email them. They may not answer you, but they may remember your lookbook. And when they see you at Coterie, they'll say, oh, I remember this brand. I got an email from them. It's better to prepare as much as you can in order to have a higher success rate. These shows are expensive. We know that, right? So it takes a lot of effort, time to come and show at an event. So when you do, please make sure you know at least what the buyer from Bergdorf Goodman looks like, so that if they pass your booth, you can at least try and stop them. It's a lot of work, and we do give some information on the stores that are coming, but the research is really up to you as a brand. All right, and I think the last point, which was mentioned earlier today, is consistency. Fashion is not an easy business. I think the ones who are in it know that it takes a lot of time, and sometimes it can be challenging. And staying in the game and being consistent and constantly improving your craft, your pricing, your presence, your marketing, these are all super important things in being successful in fashion. And so we recommend that you do at least 2 or 3 shows in order to understand where you stand in the market and if this is for you. And so we have brands that come once and say, you know what, it's too much work, I'm not gonna come back. Some may not see success their first show. Some may not get an order their first show. Don't be discouraged, it takes time. And it's, you have to be in it for the long run. So we always encourage brands to really stay in it and get as much feedback as possible before making a decision. Next slide, please. Now, the fun stuff. We get to cheers and have cocktails. We do a lot of events at our, networking events at our shows to make sure that our buyers and brands are getting the best out of their time with us. Next slide. We also have a lot of education, panels. We have Katy Perry in this image speaking at our event in Las Vegas. We are an industry connector, and so as much as we love trade and want you to come and connect with buyers, we also want to make sure that you're leaving with new information about what's happening in the industry, new trends. We also have a lot of fun. We had Busta Rhymes perform for the 50th anniversary of hip hop last year. So we're always trying to level up and make sure that the events are fun and that people are coming out. Next slide. Our reach. In addition to celebrities and panels and buyers, we also have a lot of great editors and writers that come to our events to feature new brands. And so you can expect to see Forbes, Business of Fashion, WGSN, WWD. These are all notable fashion publications that come to cover the events. And again, if we have an amazing group from Indonesia, I'm sure that they would want to come and interview the designers and find out why they're here and what they're looking to build. So this is another great benefit of coming to our events. Next slide. Some of the top buyers that have been mentioned: Nordstrom, Macy's, Saks, Urban Outfitters. These are big stores. Isetan, so we have a lot of international retailers that come to our events as well. But the majority of the retailers that come are actually small specialty and boutique stores, stores that you may not have heard of before. Next slide. Our events, I'm not going to go into this in detail, but many of you know us from Magic. Magic is turning 90 years next year. We've been around for a long time, and we have shows in Las Vegas, New York, Nashville, and we recently announced Miami. Next slide. Project, which is the show I started with 13 years ago. It is our contemporary men's and women's event. We have Project in Las Vegas, New York, and Tokyo. Next. Coterie, which is a gem, and where a lot of Indonesian designers have exhibited and seen success. This show is a gem in New York. We also have a swim and resort version of Coterie called Destination in Miami. Next. Sourcing. This is our domestic and international gathering of buyers, manufacturers, suppliers, and service providers. This exists in Las Vegas and most recently launched in New York last week. And I believe these are our events of the year in our calendar. Again, I can share this with anyone who is interested. Next, please. And this is my wonderful team. We get to travel the world and meet with designers and find out why they're interested in launching in the US market. It really is a passion of mine to be able to connect with designers who want to launch in the US market, and I do that with an excellent team. We also have agents all over the world, not in Indonesia yet, that are able to travel, meet with brands, visit their showrooms, and send us information on why they should attend our events. It's a labor of love, and again, I'm honored to be here. Thank you all so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to the workshop.
Yes, big hands for Andrew and Edwina one more time. You guys did mention very interesting points, and I'm sure that our participants here cannot wait to ask questions. But before we go to question and answer sessions, I would like to just give you a kind reminder that you have some Indonesian delicacies on your table. Like Edwina said, things happen for a reason, and those snacks are on your table for you to enjoy, okay? So please help yourself. All right, so now we begin the question and answer session. If you have any questions to Andrew or Edwina, please just raise your hand. Don't be shy. They don't bite. Anyone from the fashion designers at the back? Yes.
I'm going to ask the question on behalf of probably some of the designers. This is a question that I got a lot. So in Asia, we have different preferences than US market. So how do you identify, like, do you have any suggestion on which, for example, like which website or which magazines that can show that the trend on the East Coast? So because we're very familiar with like Asian trends, but like less so for the East Coast trend. Probably they prefer like darker garments and different models. So probably that's one. And also the second question is like, what is the most often overlooked things by international brands? For example, do they not know the shipping price, or they don't have, or their promotional material are not in English? Or can you tell me what are the most common mistakes that international brands made when they do the New York Fashion Week and also the Magic and Coterie? Thank you.
Part one, in terms of trends, I think, you know, if you asked me this question 10 years ago, I would say that there are trend forecasting services and websites like WGSN that still to this day do a good job doing, you know, staying ahead of the curve and telling you what colors are going to be coming up, you know, what are the, you know, cuts, patterns, etc. But the reality is today with social media, that's really all you need. Go on TikTok, go on Instagram, look at what people are wearing in whatever market is relevant to your business. And actually, that's the first answer that I should give you is, what are the markets that are relevant to your business? Don't just look at New York or the East Coast because you think it's cool or you think it's exciting. Do you have a customer base there already? Are you making noise there? If you are, and it makes sense for your business to grow into that market, then of course, you know, make that part of your strategy. But definitely look at what's happening on social media, look what people are wearing at events. You know, follow hashtags, whether it's hashtag NYFW or hashtag street style, hashtag NYC, whatever it is that you use to manage your social media, that's really the best place to see what people are wearing and what people are talking about.
Well said, Andrew. Yes, the US is a huge country and there's something for everyone. So again, I think New York, Miami, and LA are the usual suspect, but there are a lot of other great cities and places to explore in terms of trends. Okay, now I'm gonna answer the question I was asked. I think I covered some of the things like pricing, landed US dollars, not anticipating how expensive it is to actually scale and sell your business in the US, shipping, customs, returns, right? You might have some customers that are like, oh, I don't think I like this anymore, I'm gonna return it. There's so many things that you have to kind of keep track of when you start scaling and selling. But even before that, I would say just knowing where you fit in, which is tied to the first question, right, is do I have a product that is aligned with what's happening in the US market? Do I have a customer? I think finding your tribe is the most important thing, and that is something that a lot of international brands miss because they're like, I do great in my home country, I sell, things are great here, and I know that I can just take that and apply it, but it's not always going to work in that manner. So paying attention to trends, to doing some market research, getting feedback from some of the customers that are buying from you. So if you have an e-commerce store and you are getting some orders from the US, maybe send a survey or a special gift with some questions to that customer. What do you like about my product? What do you think about this colorway? I'm looking to launch this new collection. What are your initial thoughts? I'm seeing a lot of polls on Instagram now where brands, big brands, are asking their customers, what do you think, this or that? And so finding a fun way to engage with the customers that you already have is a good indicator of what things you should take or maybe let go of in order to scale.
All right, thank you, Edwina. Any more questions? Yes.
I'm nervous. And my English is not really good, so.
But you look great, and that's all that matters in fashion.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Buba Alfian. I'm director of Jember Fashion Carnaval. I would like to thank very much to Consul General Bapak Wiranto for inviting me to make an impact in the world through the heart of the world, which is New York. And also thank you so much to Bapak Sandiaga Uno for his tremendous support for Jember Fashion Carnaval. My advocacy is to introduce Indonesian culture through carnival and combine with fashion, beauty, and pageant. The success of Jember Fashion Carnival in 2003 is really breathtaking. Additionally, since fashion is #1 contributor to waste in the world, we use 70% sustainable fabric to reduce the negative impact on the environment. What we need to do make fashion more recognized worldwide is to follow the global market. The government should be responsive in selecting fashion players who will market Indonesian products. Furthermore, in my opinion, there should be innovation in the selection of fashion form, fabric, and marketing strategies. This year, JFE is the most successful grand show with a record of more than 1 million spectators. The number of participating SMA or UMKM reached almost 3,000, and the record transaction in one day reached billions. In the future, I humbly request the government to further support fashion enthusiasts by granting us the freedom to explore Indonesian culture and create new tradition. Ultimately, I want to create a community of fashion, beauty, pageant, movie, and also music and cultural enthusiasts to organize roadshow worldwide. Once again, we kindly request your continued support. Maybe the government can collaborate with international designers to create something out of Indonesian fabric. Thank you very much. And my question is, how can Jember Fashion Carnival using sustainable material make it into New York Fashion Week? And this is a social foundation. So sometimes we don't have much budget to go here.
Well, the minister can help with budget, no? You know, I have to be completely honest and tell you that I want to have a better conversation and understanding of what it is that the fair is currently, what kind of platform it offers, you know, what are the designers doing, what are the artists doing, what are the musicians, you know, filmmakers, whatever, you know, it is that you're highlighting. I'd have to have a better understanding of how you highlight that and how you work together. But the great thing about New York Fashion Week is that it doesn't just live, in one place. It also lives online. It also lives, on social media. So depending on yes, budget is one factor, but also depending on what your goals are, we can look at how do we amplify what you're already doing back at home via our social media channels, via our website, until we can come to an understanding of what you're doing, and really look at, does it make sense to do something within the actual event, physically at the event, or do we just look at doing something via our e-commerce and not e-commerce, but our website and our social media channels. But definitely let's have a further conversation. I'd love to know more about what it is that you're doing now, so that we can talk about that in more detail.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And we have a chance for one more person to ask questions. Anyone? If not, then, okay, from the minister himself.
Okay, since Edwina mentioned you buy stuff from Instagram, so my question is, Instagram is social media that is now morphed into commerce. What would be the industry's directions on the space? Because you have now Instagram Live offering to sell products of the latest and greatest of fashion. And I would like to ask Andrew and Edwina both of this trend, and whether more and more customers are buying through this platform, and how do you include it in the both of your shows and also New York Fashion Week?
That's a great question, Minister. Thank you. Be cautious. As much as I'm excited about Instagram, and I do have brands that I buy from, I do my due diligence and make sure it's legitimate and that it's an official Instagram page. And I also look at comments underneath before purchasing anything to make sure that it's not a scam. But I think that, knowing your tribe as a brand, having your customer base, once you've captured that information and you know who you're selling to, and you have a profile of your ideal customer, that's when you amplify with social media. That's when you go on live and you present your product or really open them up to who you are as a brand. And eventually you can start selling because they trust you and have built a connection with you, and now are saying, oh, I feel comfortable buying from the minister's brand on Instagram. But I think it's oversaturated. Many are trying to sell on Instagram, and I wouldn't advise a brand who hasn't quite found their crowd, their tribe, their potential customer on Instagram to spend too much time, because it can be very time consuming. But that is my suggestion, is if you have a good core group of potential customers that are following you, if you have a strong following on Instagram, then the lives are great. Bringing up a customer onto a live to do a 5-minute discussion could be great. Actually selling product online is also a great opportunity, because there are endless consumers on social, but until you know who they are, I would not advise.
All right, thank you, Edwina. And Andrew.
Sure. Pretty much the same thing I was going to say. Just because a new channel exists doesn't mean that you have to be on it. You have to have the marketing support. You have to have the team structure to be able to communicate with your audience, engage with your audience. If you have a social media channel that is strong, as I'm sure some of the people in the room can tell you more than I can, it's really about making these connections and relationships with your customers or your audience. So having somebody that's going to be dedicated to that particular channel is really important. So again, understanding your audience, is your audience even on Instagram or on TikTok? If your demographic is geared slightly older, then maybe you don't have to dedicate as much resources to it. If you're making apparel for Gen Z, then perhaps it makes more sense for you to engage influencers, for you to engage social media and content creators to work with you and tell your brand story. Definitely social media and content creators are a really important part of your marketing strategy now, especially for some of the younger demographic geared brands. So, including them in your storytelling and allowing them the freedom to tell stories in their own manner, but still keeping your own brand integrity is important. And just making that a part of your marketing strategy, not just doing it as a one-off just because it's a new channel that's getting a ton of buzz. Like really sitting down and creating a strategy for every channel is important because every channel is viewed by different people and they view it for different reasons. I view Instagram because it's pretty, it's entertaining. TikTok, well, it to me is much more just like fun, pastime on it, whereas I would actually probably buy something off Instagram, whereas I probably wouldn't off TikTok, but that's just me. That might change later too. So again, having a clear strategy for the different channels.
Okay, because I have a follow-on, but short answers, only yay or nay. Because I'm in front of the biggest content creator from Indonesia with, the biggest in Asia, Torik Halilintar. Indonesia is about to ban social commerce, Instagram, TikTok, and everything. People cannot sell anymore online, yay or nay?
I don't think they're going to have a choice, right? I think.
No, but is it a sound policy or not?
As a marketer, I say it's okay because you can still tell your brand story without having to sell it.
As a commercial strategist, I think it's a nay only because there's a high demand. So if you have customers that are demanding to purchase on a platform and you're not letting them, they're going to find ways to do it. So, but again, I am not in politics and I don't know why this decision was made, and so I respect.
I also don't know.
Right.
Or maybe because of the influx of Chinese products into
Yes.
Indonesia through TikTok. And it's killing the micro, small, medium, local
Yes, and that
fashion
is
designers. And, see, I encourage more discussions.
There we go.
And we have Torik here, the biggest content creator.
No. There's a difference between Instagram and TikTok for consumer, because Instagram is on demand, right? We can search of the product and we buy it. But TikTok algorithm is a bit different. It's they boost up maybe the product of China. So I think that's why. Yeah, they feed only the product of China instead of UMKM that Indonesia have. Yeah,
correct.
micro.
Yes. And that's challenging for those
Yeah,
businesses.
it's challenging. I don't know if it's the answer to close the social commerce, because there will be a lot of unemployed people, because it's growing so much in Indonesia. I really want to meet you to ask you this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you can argue it both ways, right? It could be damaging for small businesses, but also, again, if there's a demand and now a group of people that are making money and building their businesses online, then if you shut that down, how does that affect them? So it can be argued both ways.
Some succeeded, some just can't grow. They can't grow.
I think in follow-up to my first answer is if it's going to happen anyways, and nothing anybody in this room can do about that, then it is what it is, and you're going to have to learn to deal with it, right? I think you can still tell a brand story, you can still create content that's impactful and sell your product in other ways. Now, that's not ideal, for sure. I think if there was a way to say, we don't want this and it can stop, then absolutely, then we don't want it to. Maybe there's some regulations that have to be put in place, but to completely ban it, I don't think it's a good idea, because people are going to these channels anyway, they're spending time on it anyways, they're shopping on it anyway, so why not figure out ways to, instead of banning it amplify the Indonesian designers, amplify regional designers. If you are in Indonesia and you're shopping on TikTok, you should be fed Indonesian content first, However, again, I'm not in politics. If I was, I would have a lot of things to fix. But I do think that, if they do end up banning it, we're just going to have to work around it.
Thank you very much. Wow, everybody is now excited. Yes.
So hi everyone, my name is Darius Nagara. I'm a student in Columbia Universities and also educational content creators and influencers. And been working with the small medium enterprises for more than a decade. We're also working with this youth advocacy and education access, but still related to the fashions and industry and small medium enterprises. I think one of the discussion that we've brought before the table regarding Nay or Yay about the social media commerce in Indonesia to bring more small medium enterprises. I think the most important thing is how we would like to see the readiness of the people of Indonesia about the digital literacy, because I think as a person who's been working with the small medium enterprises in Indonesia and convene more events at the national level, it's really helped a lot, like on how we would like to engage more small medium enterprises into a platform. But back again, it's kind of killing for some micro level if they could not be ready toward the digitalization era. So one of the things that we can also collaborate with the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, how to engage more the small medium enterprises into like a vocational training about the digital literacy, how they will to engage and tell the narrative of stories. Because now talking about storytelling is very important in Instagram and also TikTok, as also Catholic is also one of the content creators and also other content creators here. Storytelling is very important when we'd like to convey the narrative and tell how we like to do advocacy. Because now, I think it's not talking about USV anymore, not like unique selling propositions. It's become how we would like to present unique storytelling perspective. Because like when we convey storytelling, it gives something about narrative, it gives engagement toward the audience, and how we like to make like P2P, business and audience and commercial itself. That's one of the things that I think is very important for us to elaborate. And also I've become the tourism ambassador in Indonesia too, so I can also work with that. Thank you so much. So I'm very proud to bring Indonesian to, to international level on how to collaborate more. Like, this is very important to have multi-stakeholder perspective where all the partnership between the business, the governments, the students, youth, and also the fashion designers, the fashion actors in industry, and also MSME working together hand in hand to boost the Indonesian economy through the social media utilization. I think kind of big nay for some reason to have like this banding toward the social commerce, but need to have a room improvement toward the digitalization era. I think that's one of the things that we can boost the national economy through the small medium enterprises and the use of technology itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for all the questions. Very interesting questions. Yeah. But now, this event is called Fashion and Workshop Networking. As mentioned earlier, we're going to have a see and touch sessions of the products displayed for you at the back. So feel free to have a look around and ask questions. It will be